we should be getting, 2.7 from the city of Birmingham in the next, week or two. As soon as we get them reported, so, that maybe cash balance back up to around 10.8 calendar million. So, any questions?
So, yeah, I do agree with you, that it's very, helpful, very helpful. Help me understand or remind me, I can't forget, how much of that balance is directly related to I just don't know, how has that impacted? I know it impacted us positively.
Very positive.
Yes, okay.
CARES Act has been very positive. Before CARES Act, around this time of the year, we probably would have had about 4 CARES Act.
So what is that? And I apologize. So when does that expire? When is our?
Well, the CARES Act ended this year. This is the last, this one called CARES Act. There's other funds similar to the CARES Act.
Okay.
So yes, the CARES Act expires on December 31st, but we've actually already made the last draw. I was gonna go over that in my report. But in terms of other, operational, grants that we have the ARP that we'll be tapping into is $18.5 million. We drew $1 million this fiscal year, so we have 17.5 more to draw, and we'll be drawing that over the course of 3 years. So it'll be roughly 5.8 million per year. And we also have CRISA funds, $3.1 million, and we'll be drawing 1 million, roughly 1 million each year of that. And the CRISA funds run through October 24th.
What is that for?
That's the Coronavirus Recovery Response and Relief Funds, but it runs through through 2024, but it's for payroll, salaries, and that is what we pay the sign-on bonuses and incentive pay out of.
Okay. I'm apologize, maybe since you're gonna talk about that, it seems like it's, okay, I don't wanna get ahead of the
Okay.
I do have some financial. And that ask is, because I've been noticing this around this industry, not just this industry, but this organizations period that has received CARES Act funds, that I think CARES Act fund, and I know we're watching our financials, and we're being very mindful. I want to encourage the team to be mindful, but I think CARES Act funding allows organizations to operate in efficiently and still be black. Funding will eventually go away. The grants that we're talking about will eventually go away, but any expenses that we brought on remains afterwards. Personnel expenses and different things, those don't go away when the funding goes away. So we have to be mindful of that. That's just all we have to ask us about. Bring on people, bring on personnel, that personnel expense brings going. Then if we don't watch it, then we get ourselves into a situation. So I know we're mindful of watching, I've just seen that happen.
Yeah, very good points. Very good. And we'll be mindful.
I just want to add though to that the CARES Act funding is primarily being used for operational functions though. So anything that we're doing on the administrative side is what we can sustain over the years. Yeah. And so, but most of the, just so you know, the CARES Act, most of that money is being used for operations and incentives that are not going into the salaries. So let me explain it this way. All the money that we're using for those operational salaries are going into incentives that they receive on a one-time basis. So for example, we're doing the $1,300 sign-on bonus, and then we're doing the incentive pay to the operators. And so that money, we're not putting it into their hourly rates. We're only managing the hourly rate salaries and the administrative salaries, what we can maintain and sustain on our local operating budget. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah,
Rates expire, expenses don't go away.
that's right,
So we got,
absolutely.
I think you all.
And the final thing, I would draw your attention to page 10 of the report. And this report shows 10 months actuals compared to a 10-month budget and annual budget. I'll just bring your attention to sort of the middle of the page where it says total operating expenses. Over to the left, you'll see $27.2 million in operating expenses compared to a 10-month budget of $30.2. So as of that point in July, we were $4 million trending under the budget. That trend will continue, and we expect that trend to continue throughout the year. So in essence, we will not actually spend $37.4 million. That's a good sign. We can still meet the needs and responsibilities of the organization. Spin off.
The positive to that is negative.
Right. We still. And the idea is to try to hire enough operators to have that trend actually balance out. There has been difficulty. The plans are to complete this staff up, and we have some ideas in the next fiscal year that we announced. With that said, are there any final questions?
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Good morning to each of you. I have about three things I want to highlight this morning. One being, the open enrollment for the employees is actually scheduled for October 24th through November 2nd. The schedule for open enrollment is going to be the 24th through the 28th, they'll be at the maintenance garage, 31st through the 2nd, here at the intermodal, and then the makeup day for that is going to be November 3rd. The next thing I want to inform you about is going to be the professional development training. It is ongoing. And I'm proud to tell you that we started, and actually last month we trained 42 people on Microsoft Teams. It was 25 employees from operations and 17 for administration. The next thing to bring to your attention is there's a personnel report that for the month that you had asked about. If you look at that, you'll notice that there were 9 new hires for the month, and that included 5 paratransit drivers, 2 fixed route drivers, 1 ranch coordinator, and an EA. There's 2 promotions, 4 terminations, and 1 resignation. And finally, the next thing is, I'd like to call Trey up right now to actually give you provide some insight as far as the preparations that we've been doing for the BRT from the customer care standpoint. So Trey, can you come in, please?
Good morning, Board of Directors and Director Shaw. Just a few updates regarding the customer care associates in the BRT. So we are very excited about the opening tomorrow. And all of our customer care associates have been trained on the BRT. They've had an opportunity to ride the route to get a great understanding, that hands-on understanding. We actually have a few that are in the building today. If you don't mind standing up and waving your hands, that started in our customer care department. We have new customer care supervisors, new customer care lead, and 3 new customer care associates. So they've been trained on the TBMs, also the routes, and we have a final training today with our team because of course we have associates that will be at the window at the BRT, but our customer care call center will also be available for any questions that riders may have. So we're very excited and looking forward to tomorrow.
That concludes my report.
One question, did I hear you mention promotions, we got promoted, what happened?
Yes,
Oh, absolutely.
You know what you should be doing?
So in our customer care department, we have a new customer care lead by the name of Ms. Carla Russell. So the representative that was the lead at first, she was promoted to the procurement department. So it's always good to see as people come through the organization, how they grow. So by one individual growing into another department, we were able to promote Carla Russell. And we have Felicia Hawkins that was promoted as customer care lead for the BRT employees. And our BRT employees actually started a few months ago. We had several that started. They have been learning transit and learning the system and learning about Jefferson County Transit, Birmingham Jefferson County Transit Authority. So they're in the back right now, getting prepared for tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I think this is so important. It shows people that there's a real path within the organization. This is I think we should celebrate.
That's right. And it does boost morale because even in the call center, as you see your teammates grow, it shows that you're in the right place and just keep striving. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I have a question. On the operations part of this report, we're 16 paratransit drivers short and 27 operators for the fixed route.
Yes.
Would the board be able to obtain kind of a summary report of the marketing efforts that we're making on the recruitment side? Thank you.
We're actually hiring in a recruiter. I think we just made an offer. Did she accept?
Yes,
Okay, when is she starting?
October 16th.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the report from the chief.
Good morning again. So I will just go over a few highlights in internal auditing. I mentioned last committee meeting that BJCTA underwent a CARES Act review. That review was very successful and we did not have any findings. We just finished the second CARES Act review. We have not received the final report, but to your point earlier, Director Jones, which was a good point, we do have to make sure that we are adhering to compliance and as well as managing what we have, and that's what those reviews look at. So they look in detail at they look at our financial position, and they look at our policies and procedures, and if we're doing what we say we're going to do with those federal funds. And so again, the first CARES Act review was successful with no findings. The second review was just completed last month, and we're waiting to get that report. Actually, FTA solicits a third party to do that. The Tuba Group actually is doing our second review, or did our second review. I can't recall the name of the company that did the first one, but it's always an independent firm. In the area of safety, you will see before you today an extension on the safety and security contract, but also the original contract has 2 optional years of renewals. And what we're looking at with that, before we just go into the renewals, we're looking at the new facilities that we brought on. So we have the East and West Terminus. So we're looking at Lieutenant Gamble helped us tremendously with an assessment on the officers, the level of security we will need at the East and West, and we did an assessment on the types of incidents that we've had in efforts to make sure that we don't have those types of incidents again. So we are looking at that. So today you see an extension, but soon you will see a modification and a renewal that includes the BRT stations. In the area of DBE, I want to thank Makisha for the session that was held on September 13th. It was very well attended. the speaker, one of the speakers, was from AFTA, and she was the head of several AFTA committees, so I just want to thank Markeisha for bringing that level of presence to us and for everyone who attended. Also, in terms of our discretionary efforts that we're looking at in competitive grants, I mentioned last month, the $13.6 million award that we won. But also we're working with the city of Birmingham on a Reconnecting Communities grant. We actually have a meeting from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock today at the city to finalize the scope for that grant. The grant is actually due on October 13th. And so we appreciate their efforts in working with us collaboratively on that grant opportunity. And also we're awaiting another $2 million opportunity that we applied for on July 25th. We should have an announcement on that opportunity no later than December 23rd. So we're waiting to hear from that. And in terms of disbursements, you see that we drew almost $1.8 million last month. The bulk of that was the final draw for the CARES Act. So the CARES Act was actually completed ahead of schedule. It had to be completed by December 31st, and it was completed last month. Any questions on any of that? There's not an industry average, but FTA has a goal that they would like to see, and that's the FTA goal is 10%. But again, we have to look at the contracts that we have before us that we planned out and the availability of contractors to perform those opportunities. We are. We do. Some months in our overall goal, we have overall spending rather. Overall spending 1 month could be 11%, but the federal participation that FTA looks at could be 7%. So it varies. We do put DBE language in our solicitations, but we can't say it's a requirement because right now with FTA, it's not a requirement. It's just strongly recommended that we have good faith efforts, which is why we do the engagement series. But right now, it's not a federal requirement. But once it becomes a requirement, yes, we would have to put that language.
Well, I guess it's not a requirement. I understand that. I think we strongly recommend it. Strongly recommend it that when we have this conversation, that we continue to strongly recommend it. It's something that is not important.
Absolutely, and actually that was a topic in the engagement session that we just held. It was marketed toward primes and, strongly informing primes how important it is to have DBE participation on their contracts. Right.
And we actually just came back from DC with Markeisha, myself, and Glenn, where we went to the Department of Transportation Business Forum where they talked about so that we can keep our hands on the pulse of DBEs and prime contractor and subcontractor participation, because there is a lot of money coming out for them as well. And if we're not educated on how they can go about the process to ensure that they also are part of this infrastructure law with opportunities through the transit agencies, we need to know to be able to inform them what they have to do as well. So we got our hands on that pulse, and I can assure you that that's very close and dear to my heart as the CEO as well, to ensure that we are giving everyone an equitable opportunity to participate in the additional funding we're receiving.
Thank you. Next is the executive director.
Okay, a couple things, looking forward to the board workshop that's coming up in October. It's going to be very important as we discuss our strategic plan and what that means to the budget, because one of the things as a CEO that I look at is what happens when money does run out. And I think we have to be in a place where we are now, we're given a great opportunity to grow. And in that growth, there are things that we can do to help build additional modes of transportation. The BRT is launching tomorrow, which will hopefully add additional revenue. And then there are other things that we're planning with our long-term plan over 5 years. That's why we look at a long-term plan and not just an annual plan, right? Because an annual plan only gives us a snapshot. Well, the long-term plan kind of helps us plan with capital projects as well, where we need to be in the next 5 years and how we plan to get there. So that budget revision, or the FY23 budget that we're working on, not only will we look at it from an annual standpoint, but we're looking at it over the next 5 years. And so we're taking into consideration, Director Jones, that the CARES Act money has come in place to help us subsidize during the pandemic, but what happens after the post-pandemic and what position do we need to be in? And so I have a certain level of cash that I like to keep as the CEO of this company in a cash positive position. I don't say what that range is because I don't like to be held to it just in case it never doesn't happen. But I look at a daily report that helps me and Glenn keep up with that cash position to ensure that whatever we're doing now, we can sustain that. And so also we had a very great meeting with the mayor, who actually came by the office last week and visited with some of us and the employees as well. But Glenn and I had a meeting with him about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about the BRT budget and what that means for us. And so we are going to be submitting a mid-year budget plan to him. And Watanji gave us some great information on our ridership numbers and for the city of Birmingham. They were very pleased with what they saw, so we are revising that information based on a few questions they had, and we're going to resubmit that. But in that meeting, he called his COO and told him to submit pay us our invoices. So we're going to be submitting that $2.5 million, that's for 2 quarters, at the end of this month. 2.7. For the first quarter, okay, 2.7. But just so you know that that relationship is going well, and we're continuing to get our invoices. We like to see it just a tiny bit earlier, but of course they were waiting on some ridership numbers from us. And so to get that by the end of this month is really important to us to maintain that level of cash position that I like. And so also just a departmental change. Safety is now reporting to Chief Walker, and they used to report to me. Of course, when I first came on the scene, they were reporting in operations, which is an inappropriate place because it's a conflict of interest. So safety should never report up through operations. So we separated them, and they're now, and I just don't have the bandwidth to manage such a large organization. And so now Brewster is reporting directly to Stephanie. And then I just wanted to mention something about the workforce. While the BRT is coming on tomorrow, just remember that we are challenged with a lack of operators. We're working on that. We're recruiting and seem to be getting more non-CDL, which is probably a good thing though, because we can encourage our non-CDL drivers to work at their CDL drivers once we get them. And so we are continuing to get more non-CDL interest, of course. than we are CDL drivers, because again, the industry is still down 80,000 transportation drivers. That has not changed. I'd like to see that eventually change, but we're all driving and competing for the same people. And also, as far as the administrative professional staff, in terms of some of the people that we're looking for, like planning and procurement, those are like needles in the haystack. Every transit organization is looking for those individuals as well. Many of those people in the transit industry are retiring, or we're losing them to private sector where they can make more money. And so we're having to use consultants and contractors, and I just want to make you all aware that we're dependent a lot on, and you'll probably be getting several resolutions, some of which you'll see today, for those contractors and consultants, especially in planning and procurement, you know, departments like that that are very unique in their experience to the transit industry. So I don't want you alarmed by the number of consulting contracts as we continue to seek our permanent employees to come join us at the salaries that we can provide. And so that has been very challenging for us as well. And I've already mentioned our meeting in Washington, D.C., where I saw Noria, our administrator, who wished us well, who said that she apologized for not being able to make it, but Dr. Yvette Taylor will be here tomorrow. And then Dorinda and I are going off to Jacksonville, Florida with Nat Ford, Jacksonville Transit on Monday to learn more about autonomous vehicles so that we can possibly look at an autonomous arrangement, since we're having such difficulty with bus drivers as well, bus operators. And so the industry may be moving to the autonomous category, and I'd like for us to be in that innovative decision-making process with them, or learn more about what that could mean for us as well. So we're always looking for creative ways to continue to grow and make sure that we're doing the best that we can do to service our riders. That's it.
Ms. Shaw. Next on the agenda are resolutions for consideration and approval.
Resolution 2022-40, approval of a resolution authorizing the executive director, CEO, or her delegate to execute a contract modification with Michelin North America, Inc. to exercise the remaining 2 one-year options to provide tire leasing and maintenance services, plus the tire mile usage throughout the remaining term of the agreement.
Do you hear a motion on this resolution? Motion made, is there a second? Second. Motion made, second, is there any discussion?
One question, you just announced, what is the modification? It's contract modification. What are we modifying? The original contract.
We're adding the first one year option. Good morning.
Go on.
We're just exercising the first 1 year of those 2-year options.
Okay. So is that considered a modification to the contract?
Just adding the option.
So you're saying the original design, the next 3 years, we're modifying that contract to this additional?
Yes, just adding that 1 year option. But there's no increase in money or anything like that. It's the same amount as the previous 3 years.
Director Jones, we're just exercising the option. It's not a modification legally.
That's what I'm thinking. So it's not a modification.
It's just exercising the option.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we get the right language. Okay. Thank you, because I was sitting here like, okay. So, sorry about that.
So really, we are executing our option for 1 year.
That's right, and we're not modifying it.
employee. Change.
Yes, sir.
Next item is resolution 2022-41.
Resolution 2022-41, approval of a resolution authorizing the executive director, CEO, or her delegate to enter into a contract with Intellectual Concept LLC to provide on-call transportation planning and technical services. The cost for the one-year contract will not exceed $100,000.
Is there a motion for resolution 2022? Move. Is there a second? Made and seconded. Any discussion? I'd like for Ms. Shaw to explain this.
Okay, I'm gonna ask my attention to come up, who can do a much better job at it than I can.
Good morning, Board of Directors, and Director Shaw. I think I brought this up before, just to kind of get the board in preparation for this resolution. But it's for on-call planning support. As you know, Director Shaw has mentioned, we've had a lot of challenges as it relates to planning, getting the right team on board, but also when you get the right team on board, people have to still be trained to how the organization flows. So this on-call planning support will help us kind of execute our projects that we're working on, making sure that we implement this route redesign the right way it should be. Also connecting the dots, as well as right now we don't have anybody that kind of leads a GIS, a geographical information system, that kind of helps us map and plot the things when we're looking at new service areas and so forth. Also looking at our capital projects, making sure that we're on the right track with those capital projects like bus shelters, redesign, bus stops and so forth. So there'll be kind of like on-call support, not to exceed this contractual amount. Believe me, I'm a very close watcher to making sure that whatever we put out for our consultants, that they are executing those things as well. And also the company that was chosen is here. They get called me next because they be present, just in case if you have questions at the agency level that you may want to ask them.
Don, why don't you come up and introduce yourself? And I can tell you, I know his background personally. We're very lucky to have this man, and just tell him a little bit about your background.
Good morning, Board Chair, Board members, audience. My name is Don Williams. I am with Intellectual Concept. I'm a recent retiree from Water System. I used to oversee their planning department there. I'm also part of a group that expanding in terms of our services. We are a DBE-owned company, and so we are looking to expand our efforts in the Southeast region. And so one of the things that I want to do as part of this is let you know that we're here to support you in any way that we can. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Last night as I was reading through all of this, so when I pulled up intellectual concepts, there's more than one intellectual concept. Not exactly all.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, we're based out of Atlanta.
Right. Are you a principal?
I'm part of their senior management. I'm director of transit planning for the group. And so again, I'm a recent retiree from Martin, so I oversaw their planning. So what I bring is some experience in terms of long range and short range planning. That's both the service planning and scheduling group, as well as the capital expansion.
Well, I noticed that the principals are pretty low for you in experience.
Yes. We are working with some of the primes coming on, as well as Atlas, as well as HNTP. So we have some relationships there that can bring additional resources.
So when I talked about redesign concepts, just making sure that we're connecting the right dots, providing the revenue hours, revenue miles that it would take to, basically construct a whole new service area. We're looking at feasibility studies to bring on like peak hour services, park and ride concepts, looking at taking the service out to leagues, introducing, transit to places we do not currently serve right now. But also keeping in mind looking at our current service areas and what we can do to modify and enhance what we already have. We do know that a lot of our services have been out for a long time, so maybe we need to look at how do we redesign those things to make them more efficient than what they are now. So just looking at all of it, they need the whole package. There's a lot of things, of course, that the planning department would do, but also the things that we can do, like being on the streets to do, service evaluations and certain that are out there doing it for us. So we'll definitely make sure that the board is updated with whatever reports that they produce. We'll make sure Director Shaw get that information to you all as well, whatever you need to see.
And we have, the system, the new system that we're going to be proposing that's going to be coming up. So they're going to be very instrumental in helping us with our community engagement, with our GIS. As you know, Watanji is a Department 01. And so they're going to help supplement services for her as well for our day-to-day operations in terms of things, because you have to, like she said in the last meeting, you got to pivot on a moment's notice, and she can't continue to go at the same rate alone. She just can't continue that.
I have a question. Is this a full-time equivalent, or is this, with this not to exceed of $100,000, are there just a variety of different staff members at different hourly rates? So depending on what tasks are being completed?
Yes, they provide a list to us with all of the with different staffing needs, and with the hours per hour, we also make sure that before we execute the contract, that those per hour rates remain the same throughout the contract. So we did get that clarity. So based on the needs and based on whose expertise we would use, then we'll make sure that, like I said, we'll keep the hours and everything intact to not exceed this amount.
And the scopes that you were talking about, the tasks that you would be requiring this assistance on, you think this is an appropriate contract value to cover the breadth of those tasks?
I think so for 1 year, keeping in mind that we're going to still develop the planning department, because the consultant is to help develop the planning department. Like, what do we really need? I think for me, I've spent so much time on the service end, I haven't really gotten a chance to really look at our short and long-term goals. Because we're so wrapped around service, and I want to get away from that. I want to have qualified planners on board that they can focus on service and let me focus more on the needs of the community and how we can expand transit beyond what we are today. So that is what they're going to be focusing on with me, to make sure that when we bring planners on, it's going to still take them time to train and get them where they need to be within the agency.
So one last question. So will ongoing updates of how this is being utilized and what kind of tasks you've undertaken to date, will that be part of the planning committee notes and updates going forward? Wonderful. Thank you.
I have one more question. Sorry. I have a question. Will these consultants be utilized to help determine operational costs per hour of specific routes and types of transportation to help with planning?
For new development, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
And I've heard everything that's been said. I just want to make sure the notion of helping build out the department is a part of the contract. That is, you're using them for the consultant services. I don't know why it's doing that. We'll say you're using them for the consultant services to make sure that they're able to assist along the way. I can kind of hear you, but I just want to make sure that is a part of the contract.
Absolutely.
And then, point of clarification just for me, so I understand going forward, this seems to deal directly with planning, development. So I just you hear most of the questions coming from thinking on it, and about it. Why would this not be something that, from a committee, we would have had a little bit more discussion and a little more time to look at? I just want to make sure I understand how it's delineated, so I just know in the future. Not upset about it, but I just want to know.
So, in what way? We did a competitive bid, and so in what way would you have liked to been communicated about the?
Since it's directly related to planning, in my mind, maybe this is where I'm just naive or don't understand how things have typically been done. It just seems like the recommendation consent would most likely come from the planning committee as a resolution of, that's just a way
okay.
it makes sense to me,
I
since it's
understand.
directly related to sort of the
Gotcha.
area in which you
Gotcha.
have tasked us to be available.
Gotcha.
So that's why I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes, sir. It makes sense. Again, Director Evans, I kind of brought it up a little bit, but it does kind of make sense when we're on the planning and development, and that's something I guess we could talk about.
We can talk about it, however, they told me that since it had a cost implication, that they figured it should come through finance.
Well, you are a department of one right now, and I think the thing is, we recognize that, and you have some committee members here who, while we may not be there every day, we can offer some value to help you along the way. That's what I want to do, so that's why I'm raising it.
And I still solicit that input value from you and Ms. Becky, I really do. So whatever you can do, if we can sit down and have a planning meeting, if we can invite you all to it once we sit down and kind of work out this scope and first task item, I would love for you all to be a part of that as well.
Please. I'd love to be. Thank you.
And I tell you, Director, it moves so fast around here, from one minute to the next. No, but we appreciate that, absolutely. We can use the help, absolutely.
And Director Evans, I will work with Ms. Thompson going forward. I think you're correct, since the subject matter of this resolution really primarily involved planning. This is probably one of those that we could have had placed in the planning committee properly. To some aspect, everything's going to involve money, but that didn't mean that everything goes through the finance committee. So we'll have to look at the subject matter of some of these resolutions moving forward and make sure that they're properly vetted through that applicable committee.
In that regard, I have I hate it when people say that's the way we've always done it, but that's the way it's been done, but we've never had such an institute for numbers. So, there's no further discussion. All those in favor of this resolution, 2022-41, all opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Next is resolution 22-42.
Approval of a resolution authorizing the executive director or her delegate to execute a contract with the McPherson Companies, Inc. to provide oils and lubricants for BJCTA vehicles. The contract will be for 1 year only. The bidder only submitted pricing for 1 year due to the shifting of fuels, oils, and lubricant prices. The 1 year contract will not exceed $415,235.
Is there a motion for resolution 2022-42? Motion made, is there a second? Second. There is none. All those in favor of resolution 2022-43 say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Ayes have it. Resolution 2022-43 is I'm sorry, 42. Next, resolution 2022-43.
Resolution 2022-43, approval of a resolution authorizing the executive director, CEO, or her delegate to enter into a 30-day extension with Allied Universal Security to provide armed security services for BJCTA at a rate of $22.41 per armed security guard and $33 $1,222.73 per armed security supervisor.
Do I hear a motion for resolution 2022-23? So moved. Motion been made, is there a second? Motion been made, second, is there any discussion?
Well, just for clarity purposes, I think this resolution is early, it's 30 days to kind of get us through the contract negotiation period or RFP for another contract.
Well, they have an extension for who are
Bishop. Okay. The contract, the extension from what I understand is, like you said, to get through what's going to go forward. We have to consider what's coming on with the East and West Transit Center in addition to what we already have. And this will give us an opportunity to consider all of it before moving forward with the entire thing. It's perfect.
There are not. All those in favor of resolution 2022-23? Aye. Opposed? None. Resolution 2022-23. Next item, resolution 2022-45.
Resolution 2022-45, approval of a resolution authorizing the executive director, CEO, or her delegate to enter into a contract with the Answer People. The Answer People will provide Microsoft Office 365 and Microsoft SharePoint migration. The contract will be for 6 months with a 6 additional month option. The amount will not exceed $394,000.
Is there a motion for resolution 2022-45? Motion been made, is there a second?
Second. The question, this portion for me is just to help me understand the process, this particular one. It looks like we put out an RFP, and I think this is either the first time I saw this or the first time I noticed it. The difference between, is this how we actually rank and make the decision? This is, technical score here. I'm used to seeing dollar amount as far as when it comes to RFPs, what have you, in this particular location. So this is just new for me. And if this is the case, what does that mean? Page 43 of the agenda report, typically we would, when we send out RFPs, you all disclose to us whoever responded to the RFP. I know we normally go with the lowest bid. We've had that information broken down within the RFP. So here are the results of who all responded in dollar amounts. But this is just the first time I've seen technical score in here. So I just want to understand, what does that mean? How does it in regards to the RFP? This is well above my pay grade. So, again, this is the first time noticing or seeing this.
So they're not ranked by the lowest bid. This is the RFP.
It's totally different.
Yeah, it's ranked by evaluation criteria. And then that evaluation criteria is weighted, and it comes up to a total score. And so whoever gets the highest score will actually be awarded the contract.
So is that because it's related to IT or Microsoft? I'm just trying to understand. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I just don't know the answer to it. It's just, this is the first time we've seen it done this way. So I think it's just good for us to understand. Again, in the past, it's always been RFP, responder, here's who responded, here's what they responded with when it comes to cost. It's like Sam said, just looking here, one way so long as but this is really the first time that I've noticed that we've done it this way, where it's a technical score. And again, it's the first time I've seen it or the first time I've noticed it. What does it mean? I just want to understand.
Yeah.
As well as is this the route that we're going forward, just so the board can know?
Well,
I've been in construction contracts for a long time, and I've just never seen a resolution with the cost for the RFP, because it raises questions around the cost, when cost is not the determining factor. So I guess what I'd like to do is compare what you all are used to seeing and what we have here, but when it comes to an RFP, you usually rank it by a score level, and that score level is what gets posted based on the criteria, because you don't want to list all the criteria, and you definitely don't want to list cost. So I'd like to see probably how it was done in the past and compare it to the way it should be done, which is more this way. But I'd be willing to look at it and see what we could post, but I would prefer not to post cost on an RFP, which raises concern around cost being the determining factor, which is not an IFB.
Again, I'm raising my hand here, and I don't really know what the right process is. And then for any board members that have been here before, maybe I'm wrong. I thought I saw cost on there, but I could be wrong. I didn't see cost plus.
I was here before, but this manner of having the number listed, when they go through the range, from my perspective, it's preferred. Because cost is great, but at the end of the day, I would like to have the best possible product, and I can do that based off of ranking. And then the question becomes, if you've got an issue with the ranking, or you have questions about the ranking, then between now and the board meeting, they give Ms. Shaw, take a look at whatever documentation it is. And if you don't feel comfortable, then it's like, hey, we need to go back to the table. But other than that, I think from the perspective of efficiency and getting done hastily.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I'm a firm believer that you don't, cheapest cost doesn't mean it's the best quality.
Right.
But I'm just speaking from previous experience. I was always explained to us as on the board that this is the way it's supposed to be done. Again, I'm raising my hand. I don't know the right way it's supposed to be done, so this is just new to me. This is the first time I'm seeing this, and I'm definitely not opposed to going with a better quality company. Because you pay for it, you get what you pay for, and I'd rather pay for quality.
Now, in the IFB, that wouldn't be an invitation to bid. That wouldn't, or an invitation for bid wouldn't be an issue to list cost on a resolution. But in my experience, from a professional service agreement for RFP or a request for qualification, per the Brooks Act, we are not required to make cost a determining factor. And so I think just to keep it cleaner for the public view and for resolution purposes, to ensure the competitive nature of the actual product itself, the RFP process, is to keep it in an evaluation score. So if it has been done that way in the past, I would prefer not to do it that way because of the very nature of the solicitation type.
For the record, I have no problem with the way it's done. It's just, I just want to understand it is different than what we usually see.
Okay, and I'll look at what was done in the past, Director. I'll take a look at that.
Director Jones, I would just add to that, we're not involved in the procurement process, that's internally, but legally, really the two factors that's looked at is the responsive and responsible bidder with RFP, and the responsive aspect speaks to what are the factors, the criteria in the RFP when it's put out. Who has the best response to those things and meets those qualifications. The responsible element of that is really more of cost, but it's really a culmination of responsive to the items listed in the RFP and the responsible as far as cost for those things, making sure that we're comparing apples to apples. I don't think that the way that it's been done is any different. I think the way that it's being presented is different.
That's what I'm saying.
The law hasn't changed.
That's right.
So
I'm not questioning the way it was done. I'm just looking at the way it's being presented. So it's just different. That's all.
You just have different, I think, staff now in the procurement department that are now presenting it. But the way that it's been done and the way that it has to be done legally is looking at the responsiveness and the responsible, again, the cost and all of the factors, not just one, and you kind of, as Director Shaw said, you add weighted to those various factors, and then you look at what does the score come out?
Like I said again, there's no question from my point on how it was done. This is just the presentation of it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and you know, we're continually updating processes and procedures, and this just happens to be an area that I'm very, very familiar with because I used to do this, write resolutions in one of my old jobs, and so I tend to be very picky about how it should be presented in the proper format based on the solicitation type.
The three-person team, made up of folks in the organization.
Yes.
I have a question. Will this move the board off of the Diligent software and put us onto SharePoint, or will we still be on?
No, this is for our Microsoft 360. It's not for the Diligent board software. This is for us to finally get our Microsoft, and Dorinda can explain it a lot more, but as you know from one of our meetings on some of our IT challenges, our Microsoft product suite was one of those challenges, and this is to come in to help us get our email information to our desktop.
Susan, and one of the items that they will also handle is resolutions and workflow behind the scenes in SharePoint. So you will have both.
You all excuse me, in a view, okay.
Are there any other questions? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of resolution say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. And resolution 2022-45 was consent.
I don't have a question about the different department reports. I can't get this to turn, is it on now? Okay, perfect. No, I don't have any questions about the different department reports, but I'm probably gonna make a recommendation that's probably unpopular. And it's not in a bad way, but as we were provided the new staffing reports the last time, I would just like to encourage us as we start looking at bringing on new staffing that it's okay to share resources internally. Because again, I want to always work, it's just how I am. I think it's okay to share resources internally, meaning it's okay to share, executive decisions. That's okay. So I just have to ask that when we start bringing on staffing, let's just be mindful. I'm not trying to get it's okay to share resources. That's just a request that I have of consideration.
There's no old business, no new business. There's none, we have a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Made, is there a second? Motion made, second, we are adjourned.
We're going to go ahead and start the Planning and Program Development Committee meeting. Going to call this meeting to order, and we need a roll call.
Director Carpenter. Present. Director Evans. Present. Chair Smith.
Present.
Sir, you have a quorum.
All right. We need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Yes, sir. It's properly moved to second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the adoption of the agenda has been approved. We need a motion to approve the minutes of August 24th, 2022.
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passes. for the adoption of the minutes. We've already had the executive director's report, so we're gonna go on to the chief capital planning and project delivery officer.
Good morning, Chair Smith, members of the board. For capital planning, we've had quite a bit going on since the last meeting. First and foremost, we've installed all 34 of the ticket vending machines for our new BRT, which is a significant achievement, well ahead of schedule. And they are in the process of commissioning each of the machines starting today. Now, the machines will not be available for use until we actually start charging for the services. So for now, there's a welcome message. You can still go up and touch it and see how it functions, but it will not take any payments or charges on the ticket vending machine. So we welcome you to take a look at those as we're out beginning tomorrow for the big ceremony and ribbon cutting. And speaking of which, we actually received the handoff of the keys. I've received the keys for both of our east and west terminus locations that are part of the ribbon cutting tomorrow. And we'll be completing our punch list and walkthrough of both buildings and BRT stations with this week. And by the end of the week, expect a full handoff. So yeah, that's my report. Thank you.
All right, is there any questions? Thank you for that important, very important news. We appreciate you. Do we have a plan update? All right, thank you. Okay. We have no resolutions, so we're gonna go to the department reports. If anybody needs to make any reports on marketing, grants, customer service, scorecard. Ms. South, yes, you can make a report. You with the director? Okay, all right. I was wondering about the opening tomorrow and all the things that we're gonna be surprised with. Is there anything, any comments you wanna make? Okay, all right.
In regards to building tomorrow, I asked for the transportation here with the rest. There will be some ride the bus back here to the yard.
Do we have that, somebody can handle that for us? Okay, be able to cross the street? Okay. Okay, all right, appreciate that. So 7:45, they'll be over here to transport them to, Crossroads, right? Thanks. Is there any old business, any new business? We'd like to adjourn the Planning and Program Development Committee meeting. Thanks.
Calling to order the Operations Committee meeting. I'd like to do the roll call.
Director Coker,
Present.
Director Cunningham, Director Minor. You have a quorum.
I'd like to move to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. This is gonna go quick. Just the two of us. Adoption of the minutes from August the 24th, 2022. Do I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Next item is the Executive Director's Report. We've already received that for today. Next item is the Operations and Maintenance Facility update. Do we have anybody to report?
I can report on that.
Thank you.
On the maintenance facility, the latest update we have is that we are actually in the middle of identifying an additional property for us to build on, and have narrowed it down to a potential 2. And I also have a discussion coming up with the airport on Friday, and I would like to invite any potential board member that has a great relationship with the airport to join me in that meeting. I've just set it up, so I'll send that out to you. We have an opportunity to identify some land they would like to speak with us about.
What's the date on
That is actually for this Friday, and I'm looking at the 9 a.m. time slot.
Can we get an email on
Yes.
that? Okay, great.
Yes, I'll send that out to you. It just happened before this session.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Who at the airport are you meeting with?
I have the Vice President of Planning, Mr. Lima,
Okay.
and that is the latest on this facility.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, next item is vehicle maintenance update. Do we have anyone? Okay. Moving to the next item, operations update. Morning.
Operations update was reported period as follows. Operation had 66 operators, 26 operators short. Air Transit has 24 operators and 16 operators short. This drive on time performance was reported period 73%, 27% late. Air Transit 40% is 45 on time, 55% late. Also we did promote 2 operators, Henry Dorn and Keith Peterson, to BRT supervisor. And although that exacerbates our workforce shortage, it also loses remote. So I want to highlight those 2 operators. We also promoted Joaquina Pink from finance and also BRT supervisor. So they're excited to have those 3. Also, Director Program, you asked about things we're doing to recruit. I've been invited from Reverend Joseph Turns to speak at community engagement. Is where local pastors get together and talk about things that's going on in the community. And he invited me as a guest speaker to speak about hiring opportunities here at BJCTA. So we're excited for that. And he said he put out the word to other churches and local communities to help us recruit to address our operation. Also, this evening, this afternoon, operations supervisor and lead supervisor has already been on 92.5 talk about hiring opportunities and also BRT.
Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah, make sure you get with me because I have another opportunity for you all to present with another major.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, safety update.
Good afternoon again. Not a lot to report on other than our efforts that we started last year in November. Continuing, most of those are complete. Those security measures that were put in place have pretty much 100% done. A few connectivity things we have to do. We have seen, even through War Games, less incidents. And I thank the board and Director Shaw leadership for allowing safety and security to bring on extra. And a lot of times it's not reacting to it, preventive measures before. So the show of force, I believe, really helped cut down on the incidents. And safety and security is all the time, we just continue going. So just know that we're continuing working to improve. We may not publicly say what you want to call it, I can tell you exactly what we're doing, but those efforts will continue and they're starting to show in the decrease of our incidents.
Anybody have any questions?
What's the situation on the job yesterday?
Yes, and working with Billy Kane in maintenance, along with HR, we, and if I'm not correct, we really only have one person now that's on workers' comp, but it's very rare that we have major incident where we have employees are out due to injury on the job. This is going on really, really well. I'll take that. But it's a agency, effort, you know, and the things that we promote and do and hold everyone accountable and encourage them to be safe. It's, like I said, it's a whole agency effort to do so.
Thank you for your report. Any resolutions for consideration or approval? Items for information or discussion. Do we have any departmental reports from Transit Asset Management, Compliance, or Facilities? Got it. Any old business?
I had one concern about some of the, not facilities, but the stops. There are some that are, some of the signs are down on a lot of our stops, and I want to know who will we send the information to. And some of the areas where our stops are, they just, you know, you won't even want to stand there because of how it looks.
Few things, Director Cunningham. Thank you for bringing it up. Just let me know if you want to send them to Director Shaw or Kizzy or even Tiffany. Or you can send them directly to me as far as stops. We do have a contractor that manages our bus stops. Now, things around the bus stops, depending on where the stop resides at, a lot of times that has to go back to the cities, like Public Works. We've noticed that we've gotten calls about crates and boxes and all that stuff that are just in the facility of our bus stops, bus shelters. And sometimes we have to get Public Works out there to handle that, but of course, we've been told they have workforce shortages. So sometimes I would just ask our contractor to just go ahead and remove them. But there are a lot of things like, you know, that we take care of around our bus shelters and all that. So we do maintain those. Just let me know, and typically I get the contractor out there to get that done like ASAP, especially for high maintenance areas.
Are there any plans to add like you have benches in some areas? Some, I know there's a lot of stops don't have one. Are there any future plans to make those a attractive area?
Yes. For one thing, we don't do benches. We do the bus shelters, and we have the semi seats that we put out. We had a few collection of those we put out in certain areas. But if the bus shelters, they're kind of unique because they're like grant funded. So it's more of a request for an area, and we try to look at areas that have like a high ridership. Because a lot of times people request bus shelters, but they're kind of managed by the cities because they have to, they have neighborhood funds, they pay for those bus shelters. And I know a lot of the city councils in Birmingham are now putting funds into the neighborhoods where they're asking for different amenities at their stop locations. So we're kind of moving expeditiously to get those things done, but of course, we're kind of behind on it as well too, being that, like I said, we have departmental shortages, especially in the planning division. So that's one thing that we have to pick back up and manage on getting those bus shelters and bus stops out there.
The existing company that's supposed to maintain them, they are on a contract to maintain around them?
Yes, they're on a contract right now to maintain our existing bus stops and bus shelters, yes.
As we add new ones, that will increase as well. It's not an additional funding, but cost to us, but they would just pick those up as we add those.
Yes, sir. It's for existing and new.
When the driver sees the signs down, do they report that back to the office that the sign is
Yes.
down?
Report to bus communications.
We got to get with the chain of command. We talked about that in the operations meeting going on last week about when they see something, to say something. I think that what's happening is kind of going around the building and it's not getting to the right place. So we are working on that internal process because there's a lot of things that we try to track, but it has to go back to the right department. Like even when you get customer care to answer calls and they're calling about bus stops and bus shelters, it needs to be appropriated to the right department. And I don't think that's being channeled through correctly.
YTG, one more thing. Don't all of those bus shelters have to be ADA compliant with curb cut-ins and ramps as well?
Well, the last few years, because when ADA became really, really popular, but it's been around, but before that, I mean, I'm being honest, they was putting bus shelters and bus stops anywhere. They shouldn't have. But I know for the time that I have been managing it, every bus stop and every bus shelter has to be ADA compliance. That's why we try to tell them the process. I know a lot of time directors, you all may call Director Shaw about like the important immediately putting a bus shelter out, but those things take construction. You can't just throw a bus shelter out there because then you'll have all kind of issues. The same thing with bus stops. In certain areas, that bus stop may need a platform, something built up to accommodate people with accessibility issues, so yes. And we used to track those things, go out and look at bus stop, all the infrastructure, and like I said, the process has got to just start back again, because we had an internal process where we had departments go out and look at each bus stop and each bus shelters and make a report on what needs to take place at that bus stop or bus shelter, and that has not happened as well, just being transparent.
So y'all will begin to do that, because if people don't know where to catch the bus, then they can't catch the bus.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll try our best to keep those things updated and, to the board. I do look at those things as important things as well. And we'll just going forward, like I said, as we, beef up workforce here, departments, some department people, are new in those roles. So we just kind of got to channel it back to who heads those projects up.
Just to clarify something I think I heard you mention, and so if someone wants to add a bus shelter at a specific location, one step might be to see if it's in the city limits, if that city councilor would contribute some of their discretionary funds to any of these modifications that need to be made?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, and a lot of times they ask us for like boardings, like how many people actually board in that area. We provide those numbers and then we can work on that. So we're known to send our contract out to kind of get a design concept of what it takes, maybe adding sidewalks, maybe retaining walls, just kind of depends on that infrastructure around the proposed location. They'll come back and give us a cost. We add that up plus with the cost of the shelter, and then we'll tell the cities that's gonna be 20% or whatever that total cost is. That's what they pay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any old business?
Director Coker,
Yes.
Ms. South is on her way in. She did want to provide you all with some information for tomorrow. She's on her way back inside.
Okay, great.
If you can wait for a couple minutes.
That'll be new business.
And watching the women, I wanted to commend the staff and the team for beautifying the area. Those that you look out on the platform, it's awesome. Looks great. It's a tremendous thumbs up. So I commend you all on making that look.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Chair Smith. To our board members and our chiefs this morning. We are really excited about the launch of Birmingham Express. Director Shaw is actually outside on the platform right now doing a live interview with CBS 42. So we've got several of those lined up. I just ran up the steps. But we have an exciting day planned for tomorrow. Our ribbon cutting will begin at 8:30 a.m. at the Cross Plaza Transit Center. So if you all can join us, please do. Then following the ribbon cutting, we will have live interviews and pictures, and then we will have a bus that will bring those that would like to ride to our Central Station location. And we'll have free hot dogs, we'll have a DJ, we'll have music. And so we just wanted to make sure that our Max family learns about Birmingham Express as well, and we want to integrate the two. And then on Friday at the Woodlawn Transit Center on the east, we'll have live music, we'll have sweet treats there, And we wanted to take something to that community and share with them about Birmingham Express as well, and that starts at 3 p.m. So if you have any questions for our board members when you leave today, we have a little bag of treats for you. We have our schedule for tomorrow and for all of the events for you, and just let us know. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yes. So when does the route start operate?
Yes, sir. So the routes will start after the 8:30 ribbon cutting. So it'll kind of, that first bus will be the inaugural ride, and it will go from the west area here to Central Station. But all of the routes will be in service after that ribbon cutting. So the buses will begin their normal route.
So, how many buses do we have?
We have 11 total, and I believe 4 will be running during that time because it's a non-peak period.
Okay. So.
And they'll be running every 30 minutes.
Places so that they're in sync with the time period?
Well, yes, we don't know what time the ribbon is going to end, but we'll have 2 buses stationed at the east and 2 buses at, we're really 3 buses at the west, and 1 should be able to board the first bus, and that's the start of the service. So then we coordinate with the other 2 buses where we pick up their service and do the full night service.
Okay. And I'm assuming the signage at each bus stop, not the bus stations, but stop, indicate when the next bus is arriving?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir, the platforms will be operational.
And rides are free the first 30 days?
Rides are complimentary for the first 30 days. And we have been advertising across television, radio, print ads, as well as we know that we still need operators as well, so we are also doing a hiring campaign for operators during this time as well. All right.
Go ahead.
One question. 7:45, the optimum time to leave?
That was the time that we agreed when we talked. We could do a little earlier, 7:40, something.
7:45, so you meeting here?
The ceremony is at 8:30, so maybe we leave at 7:30 so you all can get there. I think 7:30 might be a better time. 7:45?
7:45 should be good, yeah.
That should be the latest.
The latest, okay.
So that we can ride to the, ride back.
Now, we will have refreshments, we'll have donuts, we'll have coffee, we'll have all of those things there as we go through everyone tomorrow.
Thank you for the report.
Okay, thank you.
Any new business? Okay, move to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
We.
We. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great week.